And now, the official fighter introductions. He's 1-1 as a professional with an MMA record of 11-2. He's 34 years old and stands 5 feet 9 inches tall. He weighed in at 147 pounds. From Savannah, Georgia, USA, fighting out of the Meridian Booster blue corner, he is Stephen Bass! And his opponent, he's 2-1 as a professional, 27 years old, and stands 5 feet 7 inches tall. He weighed in at 144.5 pounds. Coming to you from Red Deer, Alberta, fighting out of the Holiday Inn Express red corner, please welcome Brian Jacob Samuel. This bout is contested under professional rules. The referee in charge of the action is Mr. Len Coivisto.
Brian Samuel, Stephen Bass, a 4-round lightweight battle. Davis, these two men have a lot to prove, both to themselves and to their fans, and I think they're going to come out here and put on one heck of a show.
Absolutely. Stephen Bass is trying to come back from a layoff enforced by 3 hernias in his midsection that required surgery that really tied him up for a long time, and he's trying to become relevant both as an MMA fighter and a boxer. He's going to really try to impose his will on Brian Samuel tonight, which is not an easy task.
Not at all. I mean, Brian Samuel, along with the technical skills he has, is just one tough man.
Absolutely. You know, he appears, Jay, to fight in sort of a, you know, when you look at him first, you think he fights in sort of a caveman, kind of coming in behind the jab and just trying to wreak damage and come forward all the time, but he's actually very, very technically sound. In his win over Majed Hamo, his coach told him after the first round to stop chasing him. He began moving and utilizing angles, and he'll be looking to do that again tonight to walk Stephen Bass into a big shot.
Great head movement too by Brian Samuel. I mean, he's really shown that he's done some growth here in the last little while, and a guy that I must say each time I've seen him fight, he's grown exponentially, and I think that that really shows his heart and dedication in the sport.
Absolutely right. He's been training like an absolute madman, managed by his mother, and really trying to land a very good right hand on the body of Stephen Bass.
Stephen Bass looks very composed, very calm. You know, he's letting Brian move around a little bit, keeping his game pretty tight, and I think he's really trying to feel out how Brian Samuel moves so he can time some really strong counterpunches.
Absolutely right. Both of them very, very composed, really feeling each other out with the jab. Stephen landing a couple of good body shots and landing a pretty good welt on the midsection of Brian Samuel.
It's going to take a little bit more than that, I think, to stop this man. But Stephen Bass is a guy that he's not really kind of used to guys that I think aren't going to come and bring a fight to him. I mean, this is a guy who's fought all over the United States. He's fought all over Canada, and you know he's no stranger to a tough guy. So Brian's going to have to use that toughness as well as that skill to really come out here and go strong. Good exchange by both fighters.
Absolutely, Stephen very, very composed in there. As Brian tries to land something meaningful. That last left hand from Stephen landed very well. The first 2 punches missed. Times Brian coming in with the jab.
Good little feint there by Stephen Bass, but Brian just comes straight through it. I mean, I don't think that feint's going to work on a guy like him. Great shot by Brian Samuel. Good head movement.
Brian blocking shots with his elbows as well. Very, very composed. Good defense going in to nullify the offense of Stephen Bass.
Good finish. You saw the face of Brian Samuel there, thinking he might have had a late blow, but knowing that was unintentional and a little bit of a brush. Len Koivisto, of course, on top of the action.
These two fighters have a lot of regard for each other. Brian actually helped set Stephen up with a mountain bike so that when Stephen's here in Cold Lake, he can get some time riding around. They both have a lot of respect for each other.
My favorite part about this sport is the respect that you see from a lot of fighters. Not every fighter, but a lot of fights. And a lot of fighters really show respect to their opponent and understand what it takes to step inside those four posts. I mean, it's something that most people don't understand and can't understand unless they've experienced it themselves.
You know, for these guys, obviously there's a lot of passion in sport, but they also understand that they're professionals, and they try to bring that respect to each other when they're fighting.
Second round of 4, getting ready in this lightweight grudge match between Brian Samuel and Stephen Bass.
Stephen Bass's eyes are wide open. He's really looking for opportunities to hit Brian. Brian seems just a little bit troubled by his inability to land as much as he would like to and as much as he's used to.
Both fighters coming out with a little more aggression this round. I think that first round really was testing it out, getting themselves in their own slot, and really looking to show what they have here.
Absolutely. Brian started to land a very, very nice jab to the face of Stephen Bass. Also a very good body shot with the right hand there.
Great left hook to the jaw. Stephen Bass does not look too phased, but definitely took some damage and scoring some points with the judges.
Brian's beginning to time Stephen coming in a little bit as well. He caught him with a very good right hand there.
You can hear the grunt that Brian Samuel's pushing through when he comes in with that left hand.
You know, that left hook from Stephen, Brian didn't like that shot very much at all.
Good jab, Brian Samuel pushing Stephen Bass back a little bit closer to the ropes, but both men posturing in the center of that ring, just standing there and throwing.
Stephen got away with a little bit of a low blow there, and there's some blood on the bridge of Brian's nose. We have to be very, very careful to make sure that doesn't turn into a cut.
Great body shots by Brian Samuel, but again, a counter body shot by Stephen Bass, showing him that, look, I can throw those too.
That was probably Brian's best exchange of the fight. He landed some really, really meaningful shots, and he's going to need to keep the pressure on Stephen through this round. Brian definitely looking a little bit more comfortable shot. I think he's figuring Stephen out a little bit. Stephen missing with a wild shot.
Then Koivisto warning both fighters to watch shots to the back of the head, although unintentional, very dangerous, and of course need to keep these athletes safe. Getting in a little bit close, some dirty boxing going on. I absolutely love to see grudge matches like this.
They're moving into a little bit of a phone booth fight, and it's very, very entertaining to see.
You gotta be careful though, that slip of that headbutt, although unintentional, can be damaging to the opponent and can get serious penalties by our judges and our ref.
Which could be very, very significant as this fight goes down to the wire. It's been a very, very close fight so far. You have to be very careful to not risk a point deduction.
Those points can mean the difference between a win and a loss.
Absolutely right.
You know, talking about Stephen Bass here, Stephen is a man who's very involved in his community. He says better people, better community, better world, and I've got to agree. And he says the mechanism that he uses to do that is martial arts, taking kids from a rough part of Savannah, Georgia, and showing them respect, showing them discipline. He says, look, fighters take a role in a community, a large role, and you can either be a superhero or a supervillain.
You know, and he's living proof of that, Jay. He claims that he had been very much sort of an ADHD, high anxiety kind of guy before he took up combat sports, and that extreme training that you have to go under to be able to compete at this level, he says helped him to clear his mind, really think clearly, calmed down and really made him overall a better person, as well as an outstanding fighter.
Third of 4. Brian Samuel in the red trunks, Stephen Bass in the black.
Very low blow by
low
Stephen
blow.
Bass. Right on the cup.
Ooh, although that cup's there, it hurts. Like something most people will never experience in their life. Goes to show the toughness, the tenacity that these fighters have to compete in this sport.
Absolutely. Stevens landed a couple of shots kind of to the hip and a couple around the navel that were straying a little bit low, but that one was a very easy call to make.
Brian taking his allotted time, get rested, make sure that he's ready to come back full. The worst thing you could do is come back too quickly from an ego perspective, wanting to show what you've got, but you go in there gassed and, you know, it's gonna cause you some grief, but Brian Samuel is always ready to go, head in it, and these fighters are back at it.
We'll see if that throws him off his game a little bit. He tries to think, you know, Brian, although he's a very energetic fighter, tries to really think in the ring.
The name like a yard dog, you wouldn't think that there was much technical you know, background work and game plans, but this man is methodical.
Very, very much so. He beat Majed with angles and really walking Majed into his power. Having trouble doing that against a very focused Stephen Bass.
Brian is really focusing on that left body shot, really coming in hard on Stephen. I think he's trying to work that liver shot to wear him down, but Stephen is right there, ready to go, throwing from different angles, and Samuel's definitely having to dodge those with a lot of good head movement.
You know, through his MMA and his boxing career, Stephen's seen a lot of different styles. He's very, very comfortable in adversity, and he's been able to think in there and really take the game over to Brian. But Brian coming forward, trying to land and having his share. Good shot there. Good exchange led by Brian there.
Overhand right miss by Stephen Bass, followed up by a little body combination by Brian Samuel.
A little bit of a low shot from Brian there.
Didn't seem to have phased Stephen Bass at all. Continues to come forward. Stephen Bass really seems like he wants to close the gap. He wants to get in there and fight that phone booth fight, as you coined earlier. And I think that Brian is ready for it, but definitely wants to work on a little bit more of the in and outs.
Absolutely, he's been very, very effective from the outside, more so than Stephen has.
Stephen, though, a guy he cannot count out. I mean, the fights that I've seen him fight in mixed martial arts, he used unorthodox angles in mixed martial arts, let alone in boxing. And, you know, that can either be a very big plus for a guy like Samuel, but also can be a little bit of a difficulty if it's not something he's prepared for.
Brian definitely bringing the fight to him. Stephen was kind of trying to take the last half of the round off and get a bit of a breather, and Brian is not allowing him to rest at all. Trying to come in and land to the body and the head, and having some success doing it as well.
Well, it's a pivotal fight for Brian Samuel. I mean, as he continues to put it, each fight he fights like it's his last. And this is a guy that wants boxing to be his career. You know, he wants that 9 to 5 to go away and for him to focus only and purely on the sport that he loves and he is passionate about.
Absolutely, he's very happy in his job.
That's a shot by Stephen Bass.
Yeah, Stephen Bass landed a very good shot. Brian landed about a minute ago an absolutely beautiful uppercut as well. Their offense for both fighters continues to be very effective.
Getting ready for our fourth and final round of this fight. Brian Samuel, Stephen Bass, lightweight battle. Brian Samuel representing Canada, Stephen Bass representing the United States. I'd say Brian, he's such a character, this man. I mean, I absolutely love talking to him. He's one of my favorite people to talk to. And, you know, not that I'm impartial as a commentator, but this is a guy that really likes and enjoys coming in here. And no matter what happens, he says, I always expect the unexpected. And I can really respect a guy like that because, you know, you can have a game plan, you can have your sights set on what you're gonna do, but it all goes out the window when you step and that bell rings.
Absolutely right. Brian claims to be as opposed to really being motivated by the excitement of victory. He says his prime motivation in the ring is a fear of losing. And he considers that to be his biggest fear, and you can really see him working from here. Lands a very, very good right hand on Stephen Bass.
I think Steven knows that he's going to have to turn the heat up a little bit here. He definitely took the gas pedal off a little bit in that third round, so this fourth round is going to mean a lot to his fight to get this thing up and running.
I think he's going to need this round, and he's coming forward trying to press Brian and take it away from him. Brian landing a very, very good counter shot to the body in the corner.
Both fighters looking composed, trying to impose their will on their opponent.
Brian's bleeding now.
A little bit of blood coming underneath that right eye. You can see it down, dripping down onto his chest, but it doesn't seem to be closing up the eye at all.
Yeah, it shouldn't interrupt his vision. And Brian, some fighters, even if it's a cut that doesn't block your vision, you see some fighters who lose their composure. Brian, obviously not a problem for him.
He's a man that loves blood, spilling others and seeing his own, so to speak. You can tell he's got in a hard day's work as his blood is dripping down onto that mat.
And he is bringing it to Stephen Bass right now. Very good jab to lead in.
Great movement by Stephen Bass, getting out of the way of that little bit wild right hook by Brian Samuel. Staying busy, Brian Samuel is really not letting that Stephen Bass come and impose his will at all. He seems to be really trying to take this fight and go where he wants to go.
Stephen's showing signs of fatigue here, Jay, with about a minute to go. A real opportunity for Brian to come in and take the round and end the fight strong.
Both fighters seem to have quite a bit left in the gas tank. That's a big right hand by Brian Samuel, but right back in it and pushing forward.
Brian's taking Stephen's shots very, very well and dishing back on his own.
The support that both these men have behind them, this has got to be something that they're drawing on in this fourth and final round. They're both tired, they're gassed, they're sore, their muscles are starting to fill with lactic acid, but that will to push forward is really what boxing is all about.
Brian trying to really show it here, continuing to take it to Stephen Bass. Good body shot. Stephen counters with a left hand.
Into the final 20 seconds of round 4. Both men trying to put a show on and get those points from the judges in this final round.
This fight's still on the table. Brian Samuel trying to come forward and take it. That's a good shot on Stephen Bass.
That's it, fourth and final round over. Brian Samuel, Stephen Bass. We're gonna have to go to the judges' scorecard to find out who won this grudge match.
Judge Ed Pearson scores it 40-36. Judge Chris Souster scores it 39-37. Judge Joel Scobie scores it 39-37 for a unanimous decision winner. In the red corner, Brian Samuel.
Brian, I need to chat with you for a minute. For a guy that talks as much as he does, I thought you'd want to come and have a chat with me, Brian.
Do it out there. I don't know. Like last time we did it out there.
Hey, excited guy. I get that, and I love that about you. Now, this was a fight that you really pushed for, and you said was something that was really going to springboard you forward. What was it like competing against such a tough opponent?
Dude, guy's got a head like a bull. Like, Steven, no, nothing harsh, man. Like, that was a hell of a fight, man.
Absolutely great show of respect. Now, Brian, walk us through this fourth round here and what you're experiencing. You got a little bit of a low blow shot.
Yeah, that sucked. That's probably the worst I've ever been hit in the nuts by another male.
I like how you specify another male, but that shot that you came back and you fought through it. Now, Brian, I know that it comes down to support for you and the support that you get from your community, your sponsors, your fans, and of course your mother. How does that help strive you forward to win and compete in this ring?
Hey, I would just like to say I don't have any sponsors, so I work, I box, I support myself. Anybody wants to help me out, I got a mouth on me. I mean, nobody's gonna keep your name out of my mouth. So, and my mom, I love my mom. I'd like to give a shout out to my little brother. I hope you fed my cat while I was gone. And hey, this one, honestly, there was a little more purpose in this fight for the great one that ain't with us no more. The greatest, Cassius Clay, better known to the world as Muhammad Ali. You've been an inspiration of mine since I was a kid. This one's for you and my old coach, Jim Kennedy. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for your winner, Brian Samuel.